Welcome to Sports Spectrum, where we bring Jesus back into the conversation. Here's your host, former ESPN producer, Jason Romano.
Hey everyone, welcome to Sports Spectrum. So glad you're tuning in today to the show. I am Jason Romano, and we are excited for our guest today, Rashad Jennings. You remember Rashad, 8 years in the NFL, former NFL running back. And then he won Dancing with the Stars in 2017, season number 24, and then wrote a book, The If in Life, that turned into a New York Times bestseller. This guy, I got to tell you, it's one of the most deep and insightful conversations that I've ever had with a guest. And Rashad, he keeps it real. He does not sugarcoat when you ask him on certain topics. Even when you ask him a fairly generic question, like I asked towards the end of the interview about what he's most hopeful for, my goodness, his answer was just phenomenal. So y'all need to come with me on this journey with Rashad Jennings and listen to this conversation. It's such a good and enriching conversation with Rashad Jennings. He's doing awesome things with the literacy program that he's doing and writing books for kids. Just has a lot going on. And so can't wait for you to hear about that conversation. Before we get to Rashad, a couple things. First, a way for you to connect with us and contact us here at Sports Spectrum is my email address, jason@sportspectrum.com. So if you have any feedback or you'd like to get in touch with Sports Spectrum in any way, you can email me, jason@sportspectrum.com. Then we want to direct you to our website, and it's simply sportspectrum.com, and you can get all of our content there, our podcast, a bunch of articles, devotionals, they're all there at sportspectrum.com. But at the top of the website, you'll see an icon listed magazine. And what we'd love to do is have you click on that icon and become a subscriber of our Sports Spectrum magazine. We got a little bit of a goal here at Sports Spectrum to reach 10,000 subscribers in the next year or so. So I'd love for you guys, if you're willing, to subscribe to the magazine. It's certainly affordable. It's super cheap. It's $18 for an entire year, less than $2 a day. So $18, you just go to sportspectrum.com to subscribe. And then you get this really awesome resource in your hand, delivered to your mailbox that you can read, that you can give to your kids. It's perfect for a youth group or a small group with some devotionals and some great articles, awesome pictures, great design by our guy Aaron and our managing editor, John Ackerman. They do such a great job with the magazine. So if you could, subscribe to the Sports Spectrum magazine. $18 for an entire year subscription over at sportspectrum.com. We want to say thank you to our partners and sponsors today on Sports Spectrum, our friends at Water Mission, fighting the global water crisis. Have you heard about some of these statistics regarding the general water crisis across the world? 4.4 billion people lack access to adequate sanitation. 2.1 billion people lack access to safe water. Those numbers are really astonishing when you think about them. Billions in the B, people like you and I taking for granted every single day when we just go to our kitchen sink and get a glass of water. There are people around the world who are walking and traveling miles and miles just to get any kind of water, and some of it is pretty dirty. But Water Mission is doing something about it, standing in the gap, providing urgently needed safe water, sanitation, and hygiene solutions to refugee settlements and other vulnerable communities. Check them out at watermission.org to learn more and to donate and partner with such a great ministry, watermission.org. All right, let's get to our conversation with Rashad Jennings. 8 seasons in the NFL, selected in the 2009 NFL Draft, 7th round by the Jacksonville Jaguars after playing his college ball at Liberty. Played with the Jaguars, the Raiders, finished out his career with the New York Giants, retired in 2016-2017, went on to win in the spring of 2017, season 24 of Dancing with the Stars. A couple years later, he writes a book called The If in Life, and it becomes a New York Times bestseller. And this has now become a passion of Rashad's to do more writing. He's got some children's books out, and he's got this awesome initiative with this reading challenge that he's doing with kids beginning here in March. You can learn more at rashadjennings.com, and I'm going to let him tell you the rest. This was, like I said earlier, as deep and insightful a conversation as we've had here on Sports Spectrum. So take a listen to Rashad Jennings joining us here on the show. Welcome back, my friend. How are you?
I'm great. Appreciate you having me on. I love hearing New York Times best-selling author with the title beside my name. It tickles me every time I hear it. But I appreciate you having me back on. Definitely.
Yeah, man. I'm so glad you're back on. That's what I wanted to kind of start with. What does it mean to you to have that? Because I've written a couple books as well, and I kind of learned about this book business, and mine were not New York Times bestsellers. And by the way, not many books are New York Times bestsellers. It's a unique club to be a part of, and you were a part of that. So what's it mean to have that moniker? I don't know if you want to call it title, because obviously there's a lot of different titles you can call people by, but that's pretty cool to say New York Times bestselling author.
And it's humbling. It really is. It's special because not only do you take part of the Library of Congress for an eternity, a legacy that a family gets to embark on and indulge in the secrets that you've gave. It's validity of being well respected amongst an audience I'm unfamiliar with. It's like an artist in the music industry, first song going platinum.
Right.
That's my first book. It's the first time I ever articulated myself in that fashion, and it was well received and validated. So it's very inspiring, and it's not inspiring of myself. It's inspiring because of the people that nominated. So it really is very much appreciated for so many reasons. And if you pick up the book, you'll get my perspective even more of why it's humbling.
Yeah, it's a great book. It's called The If in Life, and I'll put a link in the show notes, and we'll also put a link to our conversation from 2019, where we talked a lot about the book and your journey, so people can go back and listen to some of that conversation as well. But again, it was called is called The If in Life, the New York Times bestseller from 2019. And now you have some kids' books that you've been working on too, right? So it wasn't just one and done here. This is something that seems to be, elevating and evolving for you.
Yeah, it wasn't a one-hit wonder. I'm really passionate about writing and sharing a message through literature. I also film too is the next thing. But with the kids' book specifically, I struggled academically. I had a reading comprehension deficit growing up, and I know what that feels like to be behind academically. And I know how important it is for young kids to learn how to read, for not just to pass, just to get your parents off your back, but also even from an incarceration, the 85% of people incarcerated have a reading level of third grade or below. So it's something about the ability to comprehend what you are reading and pronounce that causes you to take society lawfully norms in a proper manner. So it's so many reasons. It really is. It's not just one thing. And so for me, being a person that's very much into details, I wanted to make reading addictive for young males specifically. And I think there's a science and an ingredients to that, just like there's a science and ingredients to making chips addictive. There's a particular amount of carbohydrates, sodium, and fat that actually makes an addictive drive, and also release endorphins, which is why they say you can't just have one chip, right? So I put an amount of effort to try to make reading addictive for young males, right? And so I appreciate the emails that I received from teachers, from parents, letting me know how much their kids have been just sitting in their room reading, especially during COVID, freely reading.
Right. I can tell you my daughter's a little older. She's 16, obviously not a male, but she's really into reading now. And I tribute, she's just on her phone, but I'm like, what are you doing on your phone? Like most teens or most kids. She's like, Dad, I'm just reading. I'm like, what are you reading? She's like, I'm reading these stories about some of the characters from the Harry Potter movies. And I'm like, this is amazing. Like most kids are, distracted by so many different things, but to be able, even if it's on your phone, I'm an old fashioned reader myself with an actual book in my hand, but even just to be reading and not just being, staring at a show or staring at something that's just kind of distracting you, but to actually be reading. Man, I love what you're doing. And you have this reading challenge, right, that the foundation's doing in March. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, the reading challenge in March, and I'm excited for all the many in the partnerships that hopefully I'll be able to announce here soon. I created a reading challenge when I was in Jacksonville, Florida, because a snot-nosed rookie, as I entered into the NFL from Forest, Virginia, right? Self-explanatory, Forest. I'm from country bunking town, horses in the backyard, easy going, don't need much in life besides some good food and God, and you'll figure the rest out type of attitude. Like I'm an everyday person. I made it to the NFL. I don't know. But being in there and looking back, like I'm not talking about myself. I'm looking at myself, right? I would look at the kid and say he was very humble. And being that humble person in a NFL locker room, I see a trash can that I'm throwing something away, and I look in the trash can. And the trash can in the NFL ain't a normal trash can. There's some really nice stuff in those trash cans, right? Like a Beverly Hills yard sale is going to be different than if you go in certain neighborhoods, right?
Absolutely.
Like, just different trash in there. So I'm floored that what I'm seeing in the trash can has been thrown away. I wanted to reach in there and grab it and keep it myself. But I thought, I'm in the NFL locker room, they're going to make fun of me, yada, yada, yada. So I regarded that. And then I got an idea. Instead of throwing away all of our trash, let's autograph some of this memorabilia and put it in a separate bin. And the players obliged. They said, okay. So instead of, Odell Beckham throwing away some brand new gloves that pretty much he just wore from a game, he autographed them, throw it in the bin. Instead of, Maurice Jones-Drew at the time, instead of him taking off his cleats, he just wore, throw them away. Hey, sign them for me. I'm going to take all this memorabilia and take it to schools and create a reading challenge. And it took bit by bit. It became this thing. But I just went to a library and asked a librarian, like, this is how grassrooted this idea was. I asked a librarian. I didn't go to the principals, board of directors, anything. Librarian, hey, I got a bunch of memorabilia. Listen, do y'all have like any way to test on these kids with books? Like, can they get a book and read it? And then if they pass the test, they can possibly get one of these. Long story short, we created a reading challenge, and actually schools have accelerated reader programs where they can go to a library, get a book, and return the book and take a test online. And if they pass, then I put their name in a hat, a drawing, right? And at the end of each month, now you can read as many books, pass as many tests as you want, and your name goes in the hat as many times as you read books.
Right.
So it's an inspiration to read. They read it. At the end, I come with all the gifts, and we do a drawing. And these kids have been reading to receive NFL trash. And I said, why stop here? This can take into other sports, other professions. People can donate their time. Maybe you pull out a card that says you get to talk to a professional lawyer for an hour. Who knows? So this has been getting kids to read, and I love it. I'm excited because I've been able to monetize it in a way that the currency is children reading.
I love it. Rashad Jennings is our guest. People can learn more about that at your website, right? RashadJennings.com. Yeah. And then the foundation is just RashadJenningsFoundation.com, correct?
.com.org. And if you just go to RashadJennings.com, and it'll filter you everywhere, to my Facebook, my Instagram, to my foundation, to the If in Life, to Arcade Livingston and a Chronicle. Coin Slot Chronicles, which is a 4-book series, is written for middle school and up, and also teachers. There is a reading curriculum that is written with it if you want to put it in your syllabus. And I come, and now, with COVID, I do Skypes for your school if they have this book after they're done reading it, to discuss and talk and hopefully motivate them.
Man, that's so cool, man, that you're doing that. And it's interesting because it's post-NFL career where you can still make a difference, because I've had a lot of guys on here from the NFL and have relationships with a lot of guys from the league. And the transition for many is difficult. when they leave the NFL, they don't know where their purpose is. Their identity was found in being a football player. And it's hard for a lot of guys to transition and find purpose. I think it helped maybe for you to jump on Dancing with the Stars and do what you did there by winning season 24. But what was that like? I don't know if we talked about that last time, about that transition. Now that you can look back 3-4 years later to what it's been like. You've been out of the league. You haven't played a game, I don't believe, since 2016. So it's been, almost 5 years now.
Yeah.
What's that transition been like now that you can kind of look back and see where God has brought you?
I would say it's almost 4 years. This COVID is just, this 1 year doesn't count.
That's fair. Good point.
But seriously, man, I tell people a lot of time, the transitions are everything. Look, man, I could talk just that one word, right? Like one of the books I'm writing now is about individualized words, and that word is one of them, right? So, but that's a whole nother topic. I can't wait. The transition is tough, but it's pivotal and it's key. For football transition, I'd say you go to college in order to earn a degree, have fun, in hopes to find a career.
Right.
That's what you go to college for. Now, when you graduate college, you start to figure out how to utilize your degree. Right. So the Lord just kind of blessed me. Playing in football is a continuation of college.
Right.
He blessed me with 8 more years before I had to transition into utilizing my degree or in whatever skill set I collected along the way. Now, I've still not yet tapped into my degree. I've only been playing on what I collected in the NFL. What I went to school for, started off in psychology and sociology, and now I got my honorary doctorate degree in humanities. I'm currently getting my premarital and marital counseling degree. I've still not yet utilized my education how I plan, right? So I'm still in this transition now.
Yeah.
I've not landed anywhere. So when you say, how do you transition? I haven't, but I can tell you how to enjoy the transition. Right. So as I'm well, actually, I don't even know what this word means anymore. Transition, because that's been taken all over the world. But
yeah,
inside of this, like I've really appreciated some of the cliches that's been told to me on how to garner success. Networking means something way more to me than what it did when I was 20. I had no idea what that meant.
Yeah.
Carry a good name. Yeah, all right, whatever. Right? When I'm 20, what does that even mean? I've been able to, in this transition, allow these experiences to kind of reiterate some of the things that I was taught. It's kind of like what we do when we're in school, right? A lot of things that the teachers teach us, like, how do we utilize this and what does that even mean? And then years later we get it. It's like I'm sure if you have kids, I'm sure it's like being a parent.
Oh, yeah.
As a kid, your parent may tell you a couple of things. You become a parent, I'm sure you're probably like, I kind of can appreciate my parents a little different. And I could be mad at them too. But either way, in this transition has been really great. I've not lost sight, or I'm not let go of who God is, right? Like, that is my backbone. Because that is my backbone, I feel like I have a stronger platform to jump off of, right? And my ground is sturdy because it's set on a strong foundation. So when I fall on something gentle, right? Yeah. And, it's been fun. I'm very much a curious person. I realized that the one cliche that's not true is money can change you. I've definitely disagree with that wholeheartedly. I think money maximizes you. It doesn't change you. It maximizes who you are. So if you're a person that loves cars and you hit the lotto, odds are you're going to have some exotic cars. It didn't change you. It maximized who you were. If you're a person that loves philanthropic work, magically you'll just do more philanthropic work. Money doesn't change, you maximize. And I've been in philosophy is something that I love, right? So I read books and I read all cliches and I read all ways that we understand how we understand, period. How we observe even now the biggest political science, right? Like there's nothing wrong with science. Political science. There's nothing wrong with the science. What's wrong is the politicization of the science, right? Yeah. There's nothing wrong with the word of God. It's the politicization of the word of God. It's how you use it. Yes. That's the problem. So, right, like I've been able to grab more of life because of the transition I've garnished because of being fortunate to play in the NFL, right? Like, so I can't give somebody a blueprint on how to be successful because I know I think differently. I only can tell you how I did it and hope you pick up something along the way. And that's what I'm always careful to tell people. Even my little nephews are trying to follow my footsteps now. I talk to them all the time and they're like, well, Rashad, how'd you do that? How you do that? Like, listen, I'm just a weirdo. You can't do it the way I did it, man. But here is how I did it. I can't make you successful. I only can tell you how I did it.
Right. Everybody's journey is unique and different, right?
Yes. And stop trying to follow somebody else's, appreciate still like an artist, right? Like stealing like an artist. There's a difference between plagiarism and stealing like an artist. Plagiarism is taking somebody else's and saying it's yours. Stealing like an artist is seeing something you appreciate, incorporating that and making your own, right? Yeah. I steal from people all day long. Now, I hope that little sentence ain't chopped and edited, but
it won't be. I promise you, because I think we know what you mean by that. And you're right. There's a difference between so do I. I mean, I listen to podcasts all the time because I'm trying to quote unquote, like you say, steal something from another show and incorporate it into mine. It's just exactly what you're talking about, right?
Right. It's simple. It ain't easy always.
No.
Simple, though. It's a simple philosophy.
Let's take a quick break and tell you about our friends at Water Mission, a nonprofit Christian engineering ministry fighting the global water crisis with safe water, sanitation, and hygiene solutions in developing countries and disaster areas. The organization has served more than 5 million people in 56 countries and is motivated by its faith in Jesus Christ. But here's what I love about Water Mission. It serves all people, regardless of age, gender, race, or faith. They are doing incredible work fighting the global water crisis. And listen to some of these statistics and numbers. One person dies every 37 seconds from water-related illnesses. 50% of the developing world's hospital beds are filled with people suffering from water-related diseases. Think about this. 4.4 billion people lack access to adequate sanitation. 2.1 billion people lack access to safe water around the world. Those numbers and stats are alarming, but that's why we love Water Mission. We sow into Water Mission, the Romano family. Every month, we give a portion of our money to Water Mission because I believe in what they are about, fighting the global water crisis, doing it and motivated by its faith in Jesus Christ and serving and helping all people, regardless of age, gender, race, or faith. You can check them out at watermission.org to serve with them, to partner with them, to pray with them, and to learn more with Water Mission, watermission.org. Rashad Jennings is joining us here on Sports Spectrum. This has been a great conversation. I do want to pivot, and that's another buzzword that we could talk about. Talk about transitioning, pivoting. I do want to pivot in this conversation a little bit and just ask you about the last 12 months. And as we record this, it's at the very end of February. We were talking beforehand, when we had you on a couple years ago, we talked about your father and that, it was I guess you would call it a up and down relationship that ended up in a good way with you and him as you got older, and you lost your dad March 1st of 2020. And then everything else seemed to take place after that. When we think about 12 months and we think about COVID and the racial unrest and the political unrest and, all of these things that happened in the last 12 months. So my overarching question to that for you is, how did God show himself to you? What did the Lord speak to you and maybe show to you when you think back on what you kind of went through personally these last 12 months?
Well, a lot of things have been taught to me. It'd be I think like 5 or so days. It'll be 1 full year since I lost my father. One, I'm fortunate because I know he's in a better place. Two, we got a chance. It wasn't unexpected, so we were prepared. But it still, it still hurts different when it happens. But
of course,
throughout it happened at an odd time. It was right before COVID. I'm in LA. My parents are in Virginia, family, and it happened there. I got on a flight. I went there, and I planned to be there for 2 weeks just to be there with family and comfort mom and, be a son, wear that hat for a little bit. And then COVID kind of massively hit. My mom's a neat freak. She's a germaphobe anyway, so she's flipping. A lot's going on, so I wanted to stay there like another extra week or so. That week or so turned into 8 months of me staying in Virginia.
Wow.
I haven't been home for 8 months since I was in high school. So I found myself doing different things. I found myself allowing my mom to yell at me for no reason to make her feel better and eat cookies. That's kind of what I did. I let her yell at me about stuff that didn't make sense.
Sure.
Because it made her feel good. She was mom. She got to wear that hat again. I got to be the son. And yes, okay. Ask you to take out the trash, even though you just took out the trash. Can you grab the remote? Just do stuff that she obviously gets done if I'm not there, right? Clearly. It's like, how was you doing anything if you asked me to do everything? So, but it's fun, right? And during that, man, I really realized that, and I tell people a lot of times this, I don't know, man, I really decided to work really hard at something so I can be successful. And the reason why I want to be successful is so I can earn wealth. And the reason why I wanted to earn wealth is to do a lot of good things with it. One of the good things is to spend time with people I love, right? So I'm working hard so I can spend time with the people I love. Right. But in the process of me accomplishing that, I found myself always away from the people I loved, right? Like, you're away from the people you love right now doing this podcast.
Yeah.
I'm away from the people I love always when I was training, playing in the NFL, dedicating myself, acting, hosting, commentating. I'm away from the people I love. So I started thinking, well, how much of my time am I trying to get back to what's in front of me? So I sat home and really unplugged. I really wasn't doing any podcasts with anybody at the time. I wasn't doing nothing but waking up and hanging with my family and recognizing that I've created this monster of success that I was chasing, and I thought I had it under control of balancing. But I realized I was off balance, right, when I got a chance to unplug. And so I encourage people to find ways to spend more quality time with the people you love, because you work your tail off just so you can spend it with them. So do it. Don't let the work overpower you, right? Don't spend as much time studying extra statistics that's really meaningless unless it's bringing somebody to know a better life, because we can't save this. There's no point in saving the world. Why would we try to save a world that clearly God said is fallen and it ain't gonna be no good? He told us to be what? In Matthew, he told us to be what? He didn't say, hey, go save, go. The earth is, no, he told us to go create disciples.
That's right.
And spread the good word, because this thing is going to be gone, y'all. And so, again, adding that, God took me back to, and I really feel like I hear my father more. It's so weird. I feel like I have the best conversations with him now. I feel like I hear him telling me he's proud of me now more. You know, he was stubborn, wouldn't say it while he was here. But you know, this 8 months has been tremendous for me, and for unfortunate reasons. But I wouldn't trade it for anything. And I appreciate the lessons that I've kind of learned and kind of got slapped in the face of what's important again.
Well, as we wind down, I got one more lesson question I want to ask you, and maybe it has to do with something you just mentioned. But when you think back to your father and the relationship you had with him, and even at the end there, when you had to, you know, say goodbye, what's the great lesson that you take from him and his life that you'll always say, yep, that's it. I know about my pops, and when I'm thinking about my dad, that's the lesson he taught me.
Many. One of many is never let anybody define you. Because if you do, they will. And when they do, you'll find yourself trying to live up to their definition. And at some point, if you reach maturity, you'll realize that you never had your own. And so if you don't reach that cold loneliness in life at some point, you're probably operating in somebody else's system. That's what my dad taught me. And it wasn't directly, he's never said that. But watching him, I told my dad that one of the reasons why I appreciate him so much, because he taught me everything I didn't want to do. It sounds disrespectful. And it sounds harsh. But if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be having this conversation with you. So people don't get when I say I'm thankful for that. Yeah. And I could have been bitter. I could have had a chip on my shoulder, which I did. But I was fortunate enough for people around me to teach me how to harness and fuel that. Right. So like if this thing was full, right, I can use it for whatever I want. I could use it to go do harm. I could use it to use a guilt trip. I could use it to go fight. But fight in which way? Like, this is mine. This is my chip, right? I get to program that chip, right? Not you. So don't let anybody define you.
When I think about that, too, I think so much of the NFL career of so many is defined by other people. It's so hard, right? When you're a player and coaches are telling you what you are, and front office people are telling you what you are, and you're getting cut or traded or even drafted in the 7th round. That means 6 rounds went by, 6+ rounds of people, quote unquote, defining you, right? So was that something that you had to kind of learn through your professional career? This will be the last question. Is that something you had to learn through your pro career, having gone through that, I guess, quote unquote, defining that a lot of in the NFL circles would call that as defining someone by their accomplishment or their achievement or how good they are, their production? Is that what you saw?
Yeah, kind of. And you can ask as many questions you want, man. I'm good. But in the NFL, yes, the front office will try to kind of box you and label you. And labels have purpose, right? And what is the purpose? Well, good luck defining that one. So one take on labels are for us to be convenient and lazy. If there's a sauce, if there's a jar that is red inside of it, right? And it got an onion. If there's a label on it that says ketchup, I don't have to figure it out anymore. If there's no label, now I have to do some tasting and let's see what it is, right? Labels allow us to be convenient and lazy, right? So you even today's world, like right now, like I see that if through my opinion in a harsh way to create a point that they made labels of if you're Republican, you're racist, if you're Democrat, you're anti-American. That way, if you say one or the other, I can be lazy,
right,
and not have to actually get inside. So the same thing with the front office, right? They will label you a superstar, and somebody isn't, and somebody is. They will label you a 7th round draft pick, and so your grade status is here. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I'm not telling you what's the fact of your talent. I'm telling you what the fact of how you're labeled. And this is how labels work. If I want a gourmet meal, I'm going to go to a 5-star labeled restaurant. Now, yeah, it could be bad. I've been to many, right? I've been to some 1-stars that was actually great.
Yeah.
But the label is what drives the laziness and inconvenience. So, again, don't allow somebody to define you, right? Don't allow, because if you do, they will, and you'll find yourself trying to live up to their standards. So again, in NFL with the front office, I appreciate everybody for giving me an opportunity and chance. And actually, if you should never be satisfied in the NFL with anybody's label. And I would argue that for life too, but that's a different topic.
Well, since you gave me permission, I'm going to ask you one more question, because this is one I wanted to ask, and I want to be mindful of our time too. So I do appreciate you taking the time to be here on Sports Spectrum with us, Rashad Jennings. What are you most hopeful for when you think about where your life is, where we are as a society, as followers of Christ, as believers? A lot of people who listen to this show love Jesus and love sports, right? That's kind of our audience. So what's got you most hopeful right now?
I would say that God is revealing himself. The Bible is true. It ain't pretty.
Yeah, it's messy.
And when you compare the Bible against the Bible, it makes sense. If you compare, so one thing my buddy had said the other day is like, I try to be very brutally honest, and I'm gonna break down honesty in a second. But he said that he feels like he's mastered putting his culture in Christianity instead of putting Christianity in culture.
Okay.
I try my hardest to be honest and catch my own hypocrisies. I think that's a way of living. I don't think anybody should be stubborn enough not to recognize their own hypocrisies. We all have them.
Sure.
So call them out, right? I have a few of mine. And I will gladly say, oh, yeah, you're right. Like, I don't like being stuck in wrong. If you call me out, I'm like, ah, good point, you're right. I need to get better at that, right? Because perfection is completed. I'm not completed.
Right.
But getting back to why, like, what I'm hopeful for, I'm hopeful that God's word is true, but that the honesty of people will come to surface. And that starts with people calling out self-hypocrisies.
Yeah.
That's the only way it happens, man.
Mm-hmm.
And being honest. Everybody. This ain't your side, this side, is everybody tripping. So I use this with one of my buddies talking about relationships, and his girl asked me, Rashad, what should I tell this dude, or da 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 da, because she was very upset at him about some stuff. And I was like, well, just be honest with him. She took that advice and went and cussed him out. So he was like, well, I was honest. That's what I felt. I was like, honesty isn't always anger. Like, honesty is this. Really thinking about why you're upset. We did a long dive into it, and what she really was upset is not because of what he did. She was upset because she had insecurities that made what he did amplified them. So true honesty would be, hey, listen, I have some strong insecurities that. Like, that's honesty.
Yeah.
Like, to truly, I'm talking about unpack deep to get to honesty. And honesty is what's wrong with the world? Sin.
Yeah.
You want to unpack it? Sin. God said, and when Adam ate that daggone, not apple because it was a fruit, we don't know what it was. When he ate it, God said, sin entered into the world. That means it was somewhere else prior to, it wasn't here. And since that son of a gun's been in the world, all kind of stuff happened. What did they do? What did Adam and Eve first do after they ate from the forbidden fruit?
They hid in shame.
They went and hid.
Yeah.
They went and hid. What did they cover?
You know.
They went and covered their hoo-has.
That's right.
You know why they covered those? My opinion is because that's what separated them. Mm-hmm. People hide what separates them. When they don't want nobody to see them, I'm going to hide what separates us because I don't want you to see. That's what's wrong with us, right? Like, they were walking around fine. And then sin came in here, and all of a sudden, and the same thing going on today. It ain't nothing new, right? It's like, so I'm hopeful because what I keep reading that word is true. So I'm going to heaven.
Yep.
I'm hopeful.
I mean, that's honestly,
I ain't gonna say everybody there.
Every person says, right?
Yeah, I ain't gonna say everybody there. Either God is true, either he is who he said he is, or he ain't. One or the other, right? Yep. So if he ain't, oh well, it don't matter then, huh?
We all go in the ground. That's
It's that simple.
Yeah, I've heard it said, liar, lunatic, or Lord.
He got to be one.
One of them.
And if he a lunatic, he the best lunatic ever.
And if he's lying, he's the best liar ever too.
The best.
Yeah. Oh man. This is an awesome conversation, Rashad. You're awesome, buddy. Thank you for being here. Again, I want to remind people to go to rashadjennings.com, which is your website. It's got all of your connections there, your social medias, and we have this awesome initiative that you're doing with the reading challenge, your books, New York Times bestselling author. Did you say, by the way, that you're going to get your master's in, did I hear this, marriage counseling?
Yep, premarital marital counseling. I can't wait. I love. We didn't get to talk about, but like Dancing with the Stars is one of the things that really elevated even another part of me that's inspired by love, and how much dance translate into a relationship of a man and a woman. I mean, it's heavy.
So cool, man.
I'm excited for that one. I did not think that If in Life was going to be a New York Times bestseller. I promise. I did not think that at all. The next few books I have, I know it will be.
There it is. I like it. The confidence of Rashad Jennings, the former NFL running back, New York Times bestselling author. We'll get you back on with all of your next books too, and we'll go into some more deep conversations, my friend. But great to meet you again. Great to have you back on the show, and all the best to you.
I appreciate you.
And many thanks to Rashad Jennings. Wow, that was such a fantastic conversation with the former NFL running back, the New York Times best-selling author. And got to be honest with you, we spent about another 30 minutes on the Zoom after I hit stop on the recording of our conversation, and we just chatted and talked about a lot of the things that we talked about in the podcast, and then a lot of other conversation as well, which easily could have made, if I'm being honest, the show. I just stopped recording. I'm sure Rashad would have been fine with our conversation airing, but it was really good. I mean, we talked about a lot of things about faith and about, really deep biblical conversations too, which I thought was really interesting. And it was wonderful to get to know him a little bit more and spending some time with him after our conversation. But he was really great. Like I said, really fantastic, really deep, thoughtful. He challenges you. He makes you think. And I like that in a person when I'm talking to them. And Again, he's doing a really great thing with this Foundation Reading Challenge, the Rashad Jennings Foundation Reading Challenge. Began here in March. RashadJennings.com is the website to learn more about it. RashadJennings.com. And just thank Rashad for joining us here on the show today. We also want to thank our partners and sponsors, Water Mission. We told you about the work that they're doing, stopping the global spread of COVID-19 and providing urgently needed safe water and sanitation and hygiene solutions to refugee settlements, other vulnerable communities as well, all around the world. They are doing incredible work fighting the global water crisis. Check them out at watermission.org to pray with them, to learn more, and to donate. Partner with Water Mission. I promise you, I sow into that ministry myself. Once a month, we give some money and really be praying for the work that they are doing at Water Mission, fighting the global water crisis. Again, the website is watermission.org. Thanks again for tuning in to today's show. Make sure you check out our website, sportspectrum.com. Make sure you rate and review and subscribe to this podcast everywhere podcasts are found. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, leaving a review really helps get the word out. So you could do that. It takes 5 seconds. You could do that as well. And then lastly, when you check out our website, make sure you check out that magazine icon. And if you can, $18 for an entire year. That's it. A couple bucks a month, less than $2 a month. $18 for an entire year. You can subscribe to the Sports Spectrum magazine. And I promise you, it's one of the best things we do at this Ministry of Sports Spectrum is our magazine. And it's really where the foundation of this ministry started back in 1985. And the magazine is still going strong here in 2021. We'd love to have you subscribe and be a part of Sports Spectrum. It's really a great way to sow into our ministry. All of our content, for the most part, is free, like this podcast, our website. All of that is free. And so we charge for the magazine, but it's only $18. It's super cheap. We'd love to have you subscribe. Makes a great gift, makes a great, resource that you can use for a small group or a youth group. Check it out at sportspectrum.com to subscribe today. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time right here on Sports Spectrum. My name is Jason. We love you guys. We hope you all have a great rest of your day. Please do stay safe.